All right, now I have Illustrator open, and let me close this for a second. I'll open it back up because I want you to see what the landing page looks like. And this is a lot of the stuff I've been working on lately. I'm working on um, a class reunion for my high school, so it's kind of filled up with that sort of thing. But let's just look here for a second. If you want to create a brand new file with nothing in it, you click right here. If you want to open something that's existing, you click here and it opens up a dialog box that shows you where you were last. This tab will open it up so you can look down. So it's like this is the last, this is next to last, and so on like that. So I'm going to um, move some things in. Uh, there's there is this bar in Zoom that is right in the middle of everything I want to do, and I have to keep moving it. And it looks like I'm just moving my mouse to you guys. So sorry about that. So I'm going to cancel that. All of this is the work that you've been doing. So you can actually go here and open something rather than going to the open file. So let's just open a new file. Click on new. And now you've got all these different choices. You can use one of the recent files that you use, the size and everything, or you can go to mobile, which is your cell phones and that sort of thing, or you can go to a web page size. You can go to printing sizes, which gives you um, a lot of different sizes here. Art and illustration, film and video. So you have all these different choices, or you can just go in here and make it the size you want. I am going to leave it at this size just to show you what we're doing here. So you put in the 11 and the 8.5. If you don't have inches, you can actually change it right here. And you can make more artboards. Let me just stop for a second and remind you in Photoshop. In Photoshop, you can have a whole lot of layers. You can have 30, 40, 50. I've never actually hit the maximum. So I don't know how many would be the maximum, but surely there's a maximum. But everything is a layer on top of the same page. You don't have separate pages in Photoshop. In Illustrator, you can do more pages. And let me just show you that really fast. This is the orientation. This would be landscape, and this is portrait. Let's change that over to portrait. And let's put 4 artboards. Okay, so let's go to the next thing in line. Here we have something called bleed. We have not actually talked about that. It's one of those crazy words that's in printing mainly, that it indicates the extra lap over the edge of the page. So let's say that you're doing something and you want a photograph to go just to the very edge and not have any white of the paper showing. So if you were to do that and then send it to a printer and they printed it with it right to the edge without any overlap whatsoever, you are going to run the possibility of having a little tiny slither of whatever it is, little slice of white showing, because whenever they're printing, they print lots and lots at the same time. They may actually print one page at a time, but once they get it off the printer and they go to trim it down because they print on bigger paper, they may cut 500 sheets at a time or 1,000. So even though they've got a really tight grip on that paper, there's always the chance it's going to move. Paper just does that. So that extra eighth of an inch, 0.125 is an eighth of an inch. That gives them the assurance that even if it just microscopically moves for a little bit, that you're not going to have any white showing. So it's good to always have bleeds, even if you're going to be working on a web page or something like that, that is totally irrelevant. It's still really good to have it um, there. It's just a good habit to be in. It doesn't hurt anything. Here you can choose your color mode. We can choose RGB or CMYK. I'm going to leave it with CMYK. There are some raster effects in Illustrator that are made up of pixels. They're like drop shadows and that sort of thing. So my advice is to keep it at a very high PPI, pixels per inch, so that you won't have any problems. Let me move this again because it's again in my way. Okay, more settings. There are some more settings here. So, number of artboards. This is why I wanted to come to this part. I have set my artboards as 4 each. I mean, 4 artboards for this page, for this file. So you can do all kinds of different configurations. You can do 2 and then 1, 2, 3, 4. You can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so this sets how much space you have between each of the artboards. So let's just leave it like this. And this we can just kind of go back over to see what all we've got. So let's just create this. And that's not good. There we go. Create. So now we've got a document that has, what was that? 1.27, I'm sorry, that's not right. 0.27 inches of space in between. So we have all of these artboards. And to activate one, you click on it and then you can hit Command 0 and it'll make that one come up close. And that's the active one that you're working on. Okay. Now I wanted to talk a little bit about the preferences. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it right now, even though you really should do it without a page open. All right, so it's called settings. Now they changed it from preferences to settings. So just go over to general and we'll just go through this whole box. Okay, these things, I don't really change much of anything in these areas because um, they're fine. So let's just go on to the next one. That one's pretty well fine too. Once you get accustomed to it, you might find that you want to set some tolerances uh, a bit closer, or you may want to have a snap to point, which basically means that your cursor automatically goes to a point as opposed to just kind of be freewheeling. I usually leave that alone because I'm a control freak. Type. Okay. We are beginning to get into the area that I want to show you. Units. I said, for some reason, they sometimes put centimeters, millimeters, or pixels as the default. Every printer I have ever worked with works in inches. Now, if you're working on the web, you're probably going to work in pixels. So just set your units to match what you're doing. So I usually set mine in inches. That's how big the piece of paper is. That's how big a box is. Now, the stroke is the lines that are around the box, and we'll talk more about that. Those are measured in points, and type is measured in points. I can't tell you exactly the conversion over to inches, but points are really tiny, and so those are the classic sizes that people use. So just leave them like that. And we've got all kinds of things in here. You can change colors, you can change smart guides. I would definitely want you to keep on the smart guides because they are so handy. Okay, hyphenation. This does not have any kind of a exception. And I wish that they would put this in like no hyphenation allowed, but not in this software, sorry. Scratch discs, that's a little bit more complicated, so I'm not going to get into that because it's the inner workings and we don't want to work on that. User interface. I prefer a darker screen. I don't like the brightness of the white. The gray is not enough contrast. The dark is too dreary. So I pick the one that's selected right here. That way I don't have as much eye fatigue and it just works better for me. If I were projecting this onto a screen, I would probably have this one so that there's more the absolute best contrast. But since we're on video, I'm going to use this one. Maybe that'll help your eyesight as well. All right, performance, all that's all technical stuff. File handling. I want to show you one that I always go and change. This one right here. If you have a large file going in Illustrator, like let's say you're doing an illustration of something, whatever their definition of complex is not my definition. So if one time I was working on an illustration and had just about finished it, it had taken me several days at work to do it. So just as I'm putting on the final things, Illustrator crashes. And it does, not very often, but it will crash occasionally. And normally, Illustrator saves like every couple of minutes. So if it crashed, you would only lose maybe the last two or three things you did. So there wouldn't be a huge loss. Well, this time, since I had been working on it all day, it just didn't save anything. I mean, it was probably saving, but then when it crashed, it just dumped everything. I had no file anymore. I had an image, but it wouldn't open it up because the file was not to be found. Anyway, it made me really mad. It was a Friday. I went home early. I pouted all weekend. And then I came back on Monday having the knowledge that there is this preference that you can turn off data recovery for complex documents. Is a complex document 2 MB or is it 20 gigs? What is a complicated document? They don't specify. So I turn that off. It gives you a warning because now that means that maybe your computer is going to start running pretty slowly. But I'd rather have a slow computer and save my file. So I turn that off. Okay. I'm getting off my soapbox now. Clipboard handling. That's just basically, I don't know, maybe you haven't talked about a clipboard, but if you do a copy and then paste, you are using the clipboard. The clipboard is just this small little space that saves somewhere over here near your file that doesn't come into play and you can't see it until you actually paste it. So that's the clipboard. And so I leave this without changing it because it works just fine and I don't want to change it. Appearance of black. I always have my display show my blacks as rich black just because this is kind of off-putting to my visual graphic person. So I just leave it alone. And that's just if you have a device like a Wacom tablet attached. So I do not have one attached to this, so I'm not going to change that. So I am just going to save it and go on. All right, I am going to close this file and I'm going to open this one. And this is the one that's called Intro to Illustrator Lecture 1. This is not something you're going to turn in. It's just if you want to work along in the tutorial, I mean, if you just want to work along, we're going to just go over some locations and things like that. This is not something you turn in. I just wanted to give you something with a little bit of a hint as to what we're going to do. So I'm going to click on this first one and I'm going to Command 0 to get it up close. The first thing I want to talk to you about is your workspace. Now, I generally just keep it on essentials. Sometimes, whenever I'm doing a lot of production work, I may set up my own workspace so it just automatically has everything I need and I'm not looking for it and stuff like that. But for for our purpose, we're just going to set it on essentials. So I'm going to reset my essentials just in case I changed something so that we'll all look the same. We're going to go back to the window and I am going to go to toolbars. And I want my toolbars to be advanced. And you can tell that it's an advanced because it has a whole lot more of these. You should do this every time you open Illustrator because if you're working on one of the computers in the library or in one of the computer labs, this is not going to stay. Your preferences are going to be zeroed out every time. So let's go back to the window. And I want to make sure you have your control bar on. Now we've got the contextual taskbar at the bottom that can help us with AI things, and it can help us with a few other things, but the control bar is a superpower. So let's turn on the control bar. So now it has a whole lot of information up here that you might be having to go to window and where is stroke and all of that kind of stuff. So this contextual bar will save you a lot of time because who wants to do this all day? Well, I do, but I'm weird. So I'm going to pick right now a shape. We'll talk about the shapes in just a second. Okay, if you hold down the shift, you can make yourself a square. That is not very visible, so I'm going to put a little color in it. I'm just going to pick some off of this little spectrum. I'm going to make my stroke bigger, and I will explain all this. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. I'm going to make it big so you can really see it. Okay, so this is a shape. You look over here, and you've got this on the top. That meant in Photoshop that was the foreground. Not in Illustrator. Illustrator, the solid thing right there is considered the fill color. You can click here and make that on top, and it's not changing the actual purpose of that color because that is the stroke color, and this is still the fill color. Now, if I wanted to switch them, I could click this little swap symbol right here, and now I've changed my fill color to what the stroke color and vice versa. But just flipping them back and forth like we were doing in Illustrator does not change the position on our image. Okay, so let's get really super close here. This, I'm going to tell you what these are. These are the selection tools. This one is a selection tool. So what it does, I'll back out. I got there a little too close. You click it and you can move it and everything's great. You can hover over one of these little dots in the middle of the path and stretch it. You can rotate it by going to one of the corners and you get that little rotate symbol, and then you can rotate it. But you cannot do anything. Well, you can make the corners round, but you can't do anything else to this. It's going to be a square or a rectangle, no matter what you do with this. If you hold down the shift key, you can make it larger in proportion. Because if you just start pulling on some of this stuff, it's going to not be in proportion. All right. So this is our selection tool. It's the darker tool, and so it just selects. This tool is called the direct selection tool. That means that yes, you can come over here and move something around, but if you start grabbing on some of these, you can still do this, but if you select, well, there's what's wrong. So this is the direct selection tool. This is the selection tool, and this is the direct selection tool. Okay, so I have the white one chosen. So I click, and you notice only one thing happens here. Let's get a little closer. Instead of selecting everything, I click and it selects. I click on the anchor and it only selects one. Okay, so I can actually make just one corner have a curve. And the corner things are really great. You can do them and undo them. I can come back and select again, and that little dot comes back, and I can make it square again. But I have just this corner selected, this anchor. So now I pull, and you see what the superpower of the direct selection tool is. It moves these around. Okay. You have a lasso tool so that if you want to choose something, you can, whoops, I do not have that chosen. I'm not clicking hard enough. So you can actually select things, and then your direct selection tool can, like if you're having a hard time selecting a corner. All right. I am going to skip these right now. I'm going to go straight to the lines and the shape. Let's just go to the shape since I've already got a shape here. I'm going to delete that. So the shapes. You have a rectangle tool that we were just using. And I don't know why they've got this rounded rectangle tool because it makes rectangular tools, but I mean, we already have this guy that's going to make them whatever. So it's kind of a useless tool in my opinion. We have the ellipse tool, which makes ellipses. You can make eggs or eyes or whatever you want. If you press down the shift key, it makes it a circle so that all sides are equal. Okay, so the next tool is the polygon tool. I'm going to erase the circle. The polygon tool is different. Let me start it over here so it's okay. So right now I've got my click held and I'm holding onto my click and I'm pressing the up key. I'm adding more sides to it. So it may start out as a heck like a some kind of pentagon or something like that, and you can make it have as many sides or as few sides as three sides. So it has some variations there. The star tool. I use the star tool a lot more than you could possibly imagine. We'll have some exercises later that will give us a clue as to what we can do with it. Now I'm going to, this time, before I click, I'm going to hold down the shift and the option key. And you see I've got this little target shows up. So what happens now, I was doing things like over here and it was just kind of going wherever. Now that I've got the shift and the option key pressed, it starts right in the center of where you click. Okay. Now, once upon a time, you had to hold your click and you could do up and down, and you still can. You can still do this. But there was a time when that's all you could do. And if you let go, you were out of luck. You had to just start from scratch. Well, now they've added something to the star. I just unclicked, by the way, that not only can you change. So if you look for this little circle, it will tell you, well, let me get back to 5. Okay. This sometimes shows up on different sides depending on how you've rotated the shape as you were making it. But always look for this circle. And you see it's close when I start hovering, it's got a plus and a minus. So that means if I take it and I click and I drag and go up like this, it makes a lot more points. If I go this direction, it takes them down to just 3 points. So we can make those kind of changes. But wait, there's more. This little round dot right here, this little white dot, you see when I hover over it, it gives me it gives me a dotted line. You click and hold and pull, and it makes that inner diameter smaller. You you pull it out, and it makes it larger. So you can make all kinds of shapes with this. This little guy is the outside diameter. So you can make it bigger, and it doesn't change the real overall size. It keeps the diameter the same, so you can just make it all kinds of shapes, which is fantastic. So I could save this and I could go do something else for like 10 weeks, come back and open this file up again, and these things are still active. So that is a huge improvement because used to you do it all at once or you did it over. So I love this feature. Okay. So now I am going to go to the line segment tool. You click, you drag, you drop, you're free of that shape. The line segment tool only has 2 points. Oh, and I want to point out something. Whatever tool you used last is going to be the one that shows up on the top. So don't be thrown off by that. All right. So this one can be rotated. You can make it shorter with your direct selection tool. So that one is just for a single 2 anchor line. You click and you notice there's other things underneath it whenever there's a little triangle. So now you can make an arc. Depending on which way you turn is which way the arc goes. So that's a real handy tool. And then you have a spiral tool. And remember in um, our design lectures, I told you about that shape being a really beautiful shape, and I do use that shape occasionally. So, and this one, if you hold your click and you press the up key, it makes the circle in the middle tighter. You hit the down key and it makes it shorter. Okay. There are some other tools in here, but I really don't use them very much. They basically just make, like, if you're making a pattern, if you were making a chart or something that you're going to put objects in there, you could use that. Same with this other tool, the polar grid. I'm going to hold my shift key, and so you can see that it makes kind of this, I don't know, it makes me think of a fan cover or a grill top or something. Anyway, I don't use those very much, so I'm not going to make you look at those very much. All right. So this is a one of the keys that we have. I mean, one of the little tools that we have for pins, but there it's a little wonky. I have never liked it. Most people think it's really fantastic. It just basically draws a line for you in a curvy way, which I can do already with my other tools. So this is my favorite right here. This is the pen tool, and it has a whole lot of different options, and I use them all. So if you hold the click, you click on it, you open it up, you hold the click and come out to the very right-hand side of it. There's a bar with a little triangle on it. Click that, and you get a separate little guy that you can move around. Because if you're doing a lot of drawing and you don't want to have to keep reaching over here, you want to have it close at hand so you can just pop over and change tools. Okay, so I'm going to start on the left. This is just simply a drawing tool that you click, you don't hold your click, you just let go and you click again and you can make a shape. The next tool has a plus next to it. That means that if you have drawn something and you decide it needs another anchor in it, you just go over to the line, activate the line, and you can give it another anchor. So get your direct selection tool and you can see where I've got that anchor. The next tool has a minus on it, which means you can go to any of these and delete them. I'm going to delete the one I just did. Okay, so we're back to where I was. So you can add and take away anchors at will. This I call the Flying V because it's just a strange looking little tool and it changes what the anchors are. These anchors are they're the crisp, stiff ones where their path is totally straight and the anchor is at an angle. With this tool, you hover over, you click, and then you pull with your click held, and you can make it into a curved line. And ooh, it works on all of them. Sometimes I go the wrong direction and make a little oxbow there. But okay, so I could just play with that all day. And the thing is, this also does the opposite. So let's say you've done some of this and you've decided, I really shouldn't have changed that one to a curvy line. So you just go over and you click, and all of that's gone. So you can go back and forth for all time. So we have some paintbrush tools where you paint. It's kind of like a line segment. You can't you can't come and it actually close the path. There are a lot of things that you can do that require a closed path. So the the pen tools make closed paths, the shapes make closed paths, and the pencil tool makes closed paths. So you can use the pencil tool and draw and come back over, and it will give you that little zero that tells you that your path is going to close. So now I've got a closed path. You don't have to. You can make lines without closing the path, but the pencil gives you that option. All right. So I have talked about anchor points and the selection tools. All right. So next we're going to talk, well, I have jumped ahead of myself. I have done all of that, and I have done the pen tools, the handles and the curves. Let me just do one more of the, because I'm not sure I really specifically said handles and stuff. Okay, so I have a shape, and I'm going to give that shape some color. So now I've got this nice little, oops, I did not mean to do that. You can do that, but this is just a plain anchor. I'm going to take my flying V and I'm going to pull. And these things I'm pulling are called handles, and I'm making a curve. Okay, so that is curves, and we've already talked about paths and closed paths. In future lessons, we'll learn what's really important about having a closed path. And I've done all this. Okay, let me do a, I'm going to change the colors here. Also, if you want to make something clear or not, or take the stroke color away, this little line with the, I mean, this little box with a red line through it will make it so that there is no color. So I'm just going to draw myself a star. So we've learned about the brushes and the pencils and the erasers, and I'll show you a couple more things, but I want to show you this eraser first because it's really a very handy tool. And there are several tools in this particular one too. So scissors actually cut a path. The eraser erases shapes. So this is another one of our brushes. You can make it smaller with the bracket key. You can make it bigger with the bracket key. So I'm going to make it just a little smaller. So this is how I use this tool. I've got it selected. I choose my anchor, I mean my eraser tool, and now I can just cut through a shape. And now I've got, according to my direct selection tool, I've got two separate shapes. Let me show you one more thing about this. If you hold the shift key down and you just, you can just do a wonky drawing. See how my pen went up? Let me do it again. My brush just went up, but yet I was holding the shift key. It made a totally straight cut. I can do the same thing here, a totally straight cut. So the eraser can really do some magnificent things. Oops, see, I only had the one. I had several shapes. So with the lines and the brushes and that sort of thing, you've got some different options, and we'll get into those later. But I just wanted to show you kind of an overview of all of these different um, wonderful tools. Okay, rotate. I think I'm gonna leave the star because I love the star so much. So I am going to get the star back. Going to leave it just like that. If I just wanted to rotate it freely, I could just go to the corner of it and just rotate it. However, if I wanted a precise rotation, come down below the pencil, click there, and there's a rotation tool that you double click, double click on the actual rotation tool itself, and it gives you a dialog box. So you can actually say, I want it to be 44.342 and preview. It makes it to that exact angle. That way, instead of just loosely doing it by rotating it with your direct selection tool, with your selection tool, you can make it geometrically the way you want it. You may not ever come across that, but anyway, I do. Now here is a copy button. If you wanted to have your original one and a leaning one, you hit copy, and now you've got both. You've got both of these. That's one thing you can do. And I think I'm going to use something else instead of the star. I want to use, um, let's make it a really long, narrow box. And I'm going to add myself another anchor because I want it to be asymmetrical. I don't want you to be able to, I want it not to be, yeah. So I've got this box. And now I want to make an exact duplicate of it as a reflection. So reflect tool, I am going to double click this, and now I get this box. And you can see the preview of what it's doing. You can make it a horizontal, you can change the actual angle of it, and see, I activate it, I just clicked the wrong thing, sorry about that. So you can see it's moving because it's actually going 0, and I'm going to put 33 here again. And now we can see that it has turned 33. And this also has a copy. Let me do something really quick and see. Vertical. Yeah, let's do vertical. So I'm going to do a copy, and now I've got two of them. So I can take this one and put it down here. And you can see that I made an exact opposite of it. Oops, I hit the wrong key. There we go. So now I'm going to talk about alignment. We'll go over this a lot of times. So let's come over here. And I want to make sure that you have your properties window open. This has so many tools on it that you won't have to be running around looking for things very much. So I am going to draw a little box, and then I'm going to unselect. I'm just going to click on the board somewhere. I'm going to draw, I think I'll just do a pencil drawing. I'm just going to draw another shape. And because of the way the pencil is set up, it didn't fill it with anything. It's just all empty space. Let's say that I wanted this shape to have the same color as this, and let's make that more exciting. Let's make this a brighter color. All right. So I want to make my little amoeba shape thing here the same color as this. Now I could go here and try to match it. I could make a new swatch. I could do all kinds of stuff. But really quickly, if you want to change the color of something and you've got a sample of that color right there, you select the thing you want to change the color in, come over to the eyedropper tool, which is right here. And you can see there's a measure tool and there's an eyedropper tool. So you come over here and you've got that selected. You click in your sample and you've got the same color. That works with photographs. It works with all kinds of things. So you don't have to hope you get the same color. You can absolutely get the same color. All right. I think I am going to stop this one at this because we have a lot of exercises for all of this. I will quickly go over the layers. The layers are the same the same as they did in Photoshop. When you add a new layer, and I need to move some of this stuff so I can see it. Um, if you want to create a new layer, all you do is you click on this plus. It's all available in this little pull down menu also, but I like symbols and little symbols like that. So with this, you can also select, hold your click down and drag it underneath things. You can put it in between. You can turn them off and on. And I do use these I toggle the locks back and forth because if I'm wanting to work on something, but it's on the layer below and it's not locked, then you can start selecting things. So I lock anything I'm not working on at the time. I keep only my active layer open. And you can have as many layers as you want. Now, with this, the layers are affecting all of your artboards. So it may be that you've got different things on different layers because, like, for instance, let me show you. I've got different instructions on each of these boards and I can turn it off, but yet it's all on the same layer. So when I have this unlocked, I have access to all of these, not just the layers are not simply on one page. It's on all of them, is what I'm trying to say. Um, the menu, if you want to find something, go up to the window and that will definitely give you everything you want. If it's checked, that means that it's activated. Um, like I said something about wanting to have my properties open. If you have properties open, you have all kinds of tools here. You can change your stroke from, let me get closer to this so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to put some color in that stroke, just random color. Okay, so now I've got a stroke color, but it's really super tiny. You can come over here and open up this dialog box and you can make it absolutely enormous. Um, if you want to do something else, you can come to these little dots and open it up, and it opens up the box where you can do a lot of stuff. Okay, we will work on strokes and that stuff later. Okay, so those are the basics of Photoshop. So I'm going to stop this now. It was kind of lengthy, I'm sorry, but I want to give you a tutorial now on the actual lab work that I want you to turn in. So I'll see you in the lab section.